know their faces. They are the select group of women behind the most powerful men in the world. The job of being First Lady is no easy task either, as author Kate Anderson Brower uncovers in her new book, First Women, the grace and power of America's modern First Ladies.
It's one of the hardest jobs a woman can have because there's no set job description.
But how well do we actually know the women of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Who was the most popular?
Jackie.
The most loved by her staff?
Barbara Bush.
Least favorite?
Nancy Reagan. Among the staff, among the ushers and stuff, Nancy Reagan. Mm-hmm.
She had a nickname, right, too, Nancy?
I mean, they called her the Mrs. behind her back and Evita. And in the West Wing, aides didn't like her because they thought she was meddling too much in her husband's administration. But, you know, she did do a lot of good things in the White House, but she was incredibly involved, so.
The most misunderstood?
I think Nancy Reagan again. I think she's a lot softer than people think. One of her assistants told me that she saw Nancy crying. This is when Nancy spoke at the Republican convention. It was the first time she spoke alone without her husband at the convention, and he was dealing with Alzheimer's at the time, and she started crying. And her assistant told me she called up Nancy Reagan afterwards and said, "That was amazing to see you cry on television. I think you should be vulnerable like that more often." And Nancy Reagan said, "You don't understand. I built up this wall around myself in the White House. That's the only way I could survive."
The hardest working?
Hillary Clinton.
The funniest?
Barbara Bush.
The renegade of the group?
Betty Ford.
The most in love with her husband?
That is a really tough one. Barbara Bush again, I think. Yes, very, very devoted to him.
Who surprised you the most?
I think I was the most surprised by how much Michelle Obama doesn't like being in the White House. And this is, from people who are really close to her. On the record, I have one of their friends, their first communications director, saying, they cannot wait to leave. They're counting down the days. Michelle doesn't like feeling like she's in this prison.
Who do you think embraced the job the most?
I think, strangely enough, even though Jackie Kennedy would always talk about, she said before she became First Lady that she thought it sounded like a saddle horse. She didn't want people to call her First Lady. But I think when she got to the White House, she really embraced it. She was the first one to give a televised tour of the White House. She was really involved in working with the curatorial staff and making the White House just the most perfect house in the country.
Despite their differences, Brower says the women all share a deep sisterhood. I'm Jade Scipione for FoxBusiness.com.